Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles, the ending to what has been dubbed the Genesis era of Sonic movies, was once again released on the Sega Genesis, and of course these are two different games, Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles. And you probably know this, they were once planned to be the same game, but was eventually split off into two different games due to time constraints and costs, as a 34 megabit cartridge would have already been incredibly expensive at the time, but it would have also had NVRAM, which stands for Non-Volatile Random Access Memory, which basically meant that the cartridge would actually remember your save data, which I did not mention this in Sonic 1 and Sonic 2. They did not have that, which meant if you wanted to beat those games back in the day, you would have to do it in one sitting. And Sonic CD did have save data using the backup memory of the Sega CD, but due to Sonic 3 originally being planned as a much bigger game, they wanted it to be able to save, and to cut costs, they split Sonic 3 and Sonic and Knuckles, with Sonic 3 releasing on February 2nd, 1994, and Sonic and Knuckles releasing on October 18th, 1994. But when Sonic and Knuckles came out, the top of the cartridge would open with a slot you could put Sonic 3 in. This was called lock-on technology, which would combine the two games into one long experience and offer some other changes, such as a new title screen, the ability to play as Knuckles in Sonic 3, adding back Tails as his own character to Sonic and Knuckles, and the multiplayer mode and save features of Sonic 3, making it the overall best way to play these two games, and why I'm covering them both at the same time. And you could also plug Sonic 2 into Sonic and Knuckles to get Knuckles in Sonic 2, and you could plug Sonic 1 in to get Blue Spheres, and the game sold well, with a combined 4 million copies sold, and the game receives very high ratings with an 8.9 on Metacritic and a 9 on IGN. And there are a lot of ways to play these games. They are Sonic & Knuckles Collection, Sonic Gems, Sonic & Garfield Pack, Sonic Action Pack, Sonic Action 4 Pack, Twin Pack Sonic CD and Sonic Knuckles Collection, Sonic Mega Collection, Sega PC Mega Pack, Sonic Mega Collection Plus, Sonic PC Collection, Sonic Classic Collection, Sonic 3 and Knuckles on the Wii, Sega Mega Drive Classic Collection Volume 3, Sega Mega Drive Classic Collection Gold Edition, and Sonic Origins, which totals to 16 ways to play Sonic 3 and Knuckles, with probably more that I wasn't able to find. The story starts with Sonic and Tails right after Sonic 2 heading to the floating island of Angel Island to once again stop Eggman due to the Death Egg falling onto the island, and they must stop Eggman from launching the Death Egg once again. But this time there is one newcomer, that being Knuckles the Echidna, who appears immediately to punch the super out of Sonic and take the emerald. He is the guardian of this island and has been tricked by Eggman into thinking Sonic and Tails are the enemy, and they are stealing the Chaos Emeralds, leading to him working with Eggman and being a nuisance throughout the game, usually appearing at the end or middle of the zones to transition them to the next zone or cause some problems for them. And with this game, they are trying to tell a greater story than the first three, and we will pick up on this later. Once again, the gameplay is very similar to the others, with a new ability, that being the Insta Shield. Pressing the A button again mid-air, Sonic will perform the Insta Shield, giving him a bigger hitbox and the ability to deflect projectiles if timed well. And there's also a new power-ups, and I did not cover the power-ups in the last few games because I forgot to, so I'll rapid fire them. Blue Shield protects you from one hit of damage, Invincibility Shield makes you invincible for a short time, and the Speed Shoes make you faster for a little bit. And in this game we get 3 new shields. The Fire Shield, which lets Sonic dash forward in the air and protect him from projectiles and be immune to fire. The Aqua Shield, it also reflects projectiles and lets Sonic last forever underwater, and he gains a new bounce ability. And finally the Thunder Shield, and once again it reflects projectiles, and Sonic also gains a double jump. All only take 1 hit to go away, and Sonic is the only one who can use them, and he can't use the drop dash or Insta Shield while he has them. Once again, going from worst to best, but in this game they changed the zone formula again. It's still the same 2 acts per zone like Sonic 2, but now both the zones end with a boss. And now there are special zone transitions. The zone can change halfway throughout the levels, and often Act 2 adds a new gimmick into the mix for the zone. Now, on to the worst zone in Sonic 3. It's easily Carnival Night Zone. Once again, I don't like the pinball stages, but this time I actively dislike the pinball zone. It's just the gimmicks suck, especially the infamous barrel. It's not clear what you have to do with this thing, and you can easily get stuck here if you don't know what to do. But what you have to do is press up and down to get the barrel to bounce and get under or over it. In Act 2, they add a lot more water, and Knuckles appears to turn off the power, which gets turned back on later in the zone. The badniks are Batbot, Clamor, and Sparkle. The sub-boss is the Bowling Spin, and ignoring the design, it's a simple boss. It sets off a spinning top that bounces around, slowly breaking the floor underneath you. You have to touch the bowling spin to get it to extend, and then get the top to hit it while extended to damage it, and it can electrocute itself to stop you from touching it. Then the boss is the Egg Gravitron. Eggman has 3 green balls he spins to create a gravitational pull to pull Sonic in to damage it. Just run away and hit him. Once he is done, it's a simple fight. Next is Marble Garden Zone, and it's fine. The gimmicks of the spinning switch and the pulleys are fine. It's just the level design is too slow for me and too convoluted. Like Marble Zone, this is a very vertical stage, but at least unlike Marble Zone, you can go fast most of the time. The badniks are Bubbles, Mantis, Relief, and Spiker. The sub-boss is Tunnelbot, who can be found all throughout Act 1, and in the fight, he will burrow into the ceiling and drop stalactites onto you, and then pop out. You can hit him once he pops out, and it's a simple fight. The boss is the Egg Drillster Mark II, the sequel to Emerald Zone's boss. Eggman takes a second to destroy the floor you're on while he is doing this, wail on him, and then he will destroy the floor. Tails will pick you up, and it becomes a sky battle. But depending on how much you wailed on him while he was digging, you can kill him instantly. The next one is Launch Base Zone. The gimmicks are fine, and the speed is alright. It's just the badniks are incredibly annoying. Plus, a lot of Act 2 takes place underwater. The badniks are Corky, Flybot 797, Orbinaut, Ribot, and Snail Blaster. The sub-boss is Twin Hammer. He floats around and spins 2 spike balls around him. Hit him, and he will eventually lose one. Continue hitting him to defeat him. The first of the bosses is the Egg Cannon. He sits atop a ledge and shoots cannonballs at you. Once a hatch opens, jump up and hit him. It's simple and also incredibly easy with Supersonic. The next boss is the Egg Rocket. Eggman flies up or down on the right or left side of the screen. Avoid the lasers he shoots and the spiked ball protecting him. And hit him. The more you hit him, the more segments of his rocket he loses. Then finally is the final boss of Sonic 3, Big Arms. It's simple. He flies at you from left or the right. He tries to grab you, jump up and hit him at the right time and avoid his arms. And he will also hang at the bottom or top of the screen for a short bit to swoop down or up at you. But keep in mind, if you lose, you have to fight the Egg Cannon Egg Rocket again. The next zone is Angel Island Zone, the first zone in the game, and honestly, I would not say this is a Green Hill clone. It's got a very different theming, being a jungle, and this time there's actually something interesting to talk about. Halfway through the first act, you encounter the sub-boss Fire Breath, defeat him, and the entirety of Angel Island Zone gets engulfed in flames, and this carries over to Act 2. The badniks are Bluminator, Caterkiller Jr., Monkey Dude, and Rhinobot. The sub-boss, as mentioned before, is Fire Breath, and more often than not, you'll have a flame shield at this boss, making it trivially easy. But if you do not, avoid the Fire Breath and hit him once able to. The boss is the Egg Scorcher Mark III, the sequel to Hilltop Zone's boss. Eggman hides behind a waterfall and pops out occasionally to shoot fire at you. Avoid the bottomless pits to the side, and it's an easy boss. The next zone is Ice Cap Zone. You start with a new snowboarding section that, while cool, serves really nothing other than a cutscene. And Act 1 really brought down this zone for me, with all of its moving blocks, platforms you have to run at to move to higher places, endless ravines, and just overall very slow compared to Act 2. And Act 2 really picks up the pace with a much more speed-focused level design, and replacing the old gimmicks with a new trampoline, which is way more fun than any gimmick from Act 1. The bandits are Penguinator and Starpointer. The sub-boss is Big Istus. It summons a circle of ice spikes, sits around it, then floats from left to right in an arch-like pattern. Then it releases its ice spikes. You can hit it while it has the ice spikes if you time it well, but it's easier to hit after it releases its ice spikes. The boss is the Egg Froster. Eggman floats around and lowers a platform you can stand on to hit him, but he will try to freeze you, and it's a very simple boss fight, especially with Super Sonic. And finally, my favorite zone in the game is easily Hydrocity Zone. And before we start, yes, it's pronounced Hydrocity Zone, like velocity, not Hydrocity Zone. The main argument is it's, quote, literally a water city, and no, it's not, it's a temple. Anyways, back to the level, and by the name you can guess, it's the game's water stage. And this may be my favorite water stage in the entirety of gaming, because you can actually go fast in this zone. And this zone really shines in Act 2 when they introduce the water slides and little grabby hands that give you a burst of speed. Everything about this stage is perfect for me, especially the music. The badniks are Blastoid, Buggernut, Jaws, Mega Chopper, Point Dexter, and Turbo Spiker. The sub-boss is the Big Shaker. In a bowl-shaped arena, filled halfway with water, it'll drop from the top and slide back up through the bowl while spinning its thrusters. You can't hit it while it's doing this. Then it will settle back on the turbine in the middle and stop rotating its thrusters. Hit it as much as you can before it starts creating a whirlpool in the water. The boss is the Egg Vortex. Eggman floats above you and creates a vortex to suck you up, so he can hit you, then jump on the vortex to hit him. I also just learned this, but you can rocket yourself off the bombs to launch up and hit him. You can also just use tails to hit him, and he will occasionally lower himself. Overall, Sonic 3 has some really great stages, and personally, Hydrocity is my favorite stage in the entirety of the Genesis era. Okay, so this game once again changed how you get to the special stages. Now you get to them from fighting a big ring in an act. They can be very well hidden at times. But on to the special stages, and these are my favorite special stages in the series. And it is blue spheres. Run around the stage to find and touch blue spheres, turning them red. Don't touch the red spheres, as that will make you lose. You can also collect rings, and collecting them all will give you a perfect bonus for more points. And in special occasions, you can walk around the perimeter of blue spheres to turn them all into rings. Touch all blue spheres and you win. We're bringing back the music section, as this time we have something to talk about. The tracks for Carnival Night Zone, Ice Cap Zone, and Launch Base Zone were actually created by Michael Jackson. But, due to an argument, he was not in the credits, leading to later versions to remove those tracks and replace them with the prototype tracks. Here's an example. Also, my three favorite tracks are Hydrocity Zone Act 2, Michael Jackson's Ice Cap Zone Act 1, and Blue Spheres. Okay, moving on to Sonic & Knuckles. The story happens right after Sonic 3's, with Eggman trying to launch a Death Egg robot again after failing in Launch Base Zone. But we learn some more about Knuckles. He is the guardian of the Master Emerald, and eventually Eggman betrays him to steal the Master Emerald, leading to Knuckles figuring out Eggman's the bad guy, not us, and teaming up with us to help us get the Master Emerald back. Alright, same zone formula as Sonic 3, and on to this game's Labyrinth Zone. Took us a while, but this Labyrinth Zone is Sandopolis Zone. What a shocker! Act 1's fine, just a lot of sand and some pretty good gimmicks. But Act 2 is so bad, it brings back the rest of the zone. You travel into the pyramid, where you now have to keep the lights on so ghosts don't get you. But it's such a slow act, there are a lot of timing-based puzzles and very slow switches you have to push, and often you have to run away from sand piling up so you don't get crushed, and it's just not enjoyable. The bandits are Huyodoro, Rockin', Sandworm, and Scorp. The sub-boss is Guardian, and he starts out as a rock, grows limbs, then grows a head, hit his head to knock him down, and repeat every time his head pops out to push him into the sand. It's a very boring and not challenging boss fight. The boss is the Egg Golem. I don't even know what this thing does because you can see in the background how I beat him without even using Hypersonic. Next is Lava Reef Zone and Hidden Palace Zone. Lava Reef Zone is a fine stage. It's one of the slower ones with some annoying gimmicks and bandits, but as long as you have a fire shield, it becomes much better, as you no longer have to deal with the fire and lava. The bandits are Fireworm, Iwamadoki, Toximister. The sub-boss is Heat Arms. Its eyes will pop out and you have to hit them to destroy them, but they will shoot projectiles at you and eventually leave. And that's when Heat Arms' arm pops up to crush you. Hit it to destroy. Destroy both its eyes and its arm to defeat it. The next boss is the Egg Inferno. It has two phases. The first phase, just keep up with the auto scroll and avoid Eggman destroying platforms. Then in phase 2, you are above lava with some floating platforms, and Eggman tilts the lava towards him and shoots bombs at you. Jump on the platforms and avoid the bombs to make Eggman hit himself. This fight is very easy with Supersonic / Hypersonic or a Fire Shield. Then there's the boss of Hidden Palace Zone, which is Knuckles. He will either spin dash, glide, or punch you. Avoid those and jump on his head to damage him. I found him very simple and easy. Next up is Mushroom Hill Zone, the first zone in the game if played separate. It's fine. It's got some okay gimmicks and I find some of the bandits annoying. And the autumn theme is pretty good in Act 2. But it's a first zone and there's really nothing that special to me. The bandits are Butterdroid, Cluckoid, Dragonfly, Madmole, and Mushmeanie. The sub-boss is Hey-Ho. He will start by chopping a tree on the right side, sending logs at you. Hit him. It's a simple boss fight. The boss is the Egg Scrambler. Hit his antenna to start the fight, and Eggman appears and starts running away. Chase him, avoid spike balls, avoid his exhaust, and get close to him and hit him. With the Flame Shield, it's a very easy boss fight. Next up, we have both Sky Sanctuary Zone and the Death Egg Zone. After Hidden Palace, Knuckles sends Sonic up to Sky Sanctuary, where Sonic has to be quick through the collapsing ruins to reach the Death Egg. The gimmicks are fine, and the only badnik is the Egg Robo. The bosses of this stage are all Mecha Sonic Mark II, who at first pilots the Egg Wrecker from Sonic 1, and then the Egg Bouncer from Sonic 2. Then, his last fight is a more difficult and erratic version of the first Mecha Sonic fight, but this time you have rings, making it much easier by default. Then, on to Death Egg Zone, the final zone in the game, and I enjoy its main gimmick, which is gravity, which is constantly being switched, and some other things like lasers and moving conveyor belts. It's a fun stage, and I enjoy it. The bandits are Spike, Bonker, and Chain Spike. The sub-boss is Red Eye, and I have no comments on this boss. I beat it almost instantly with Hypersonic. The boss is Death Ball. It has bouncers protecting it from being hit. You can swap gravity from left to right. He drops mines on you, and I found when he dropped mines, he was very easy to hit. And you are supposed to hit him with his own mines by swapping gravity, but I found him very easy to hit when using Hypersonic speed. Then, finally, is my favorite stage in this game, that being Flying Battery Zone. And fun fact, this zone was originally going to be in between Carnival Night Zone and Ice Cap Zone. You could tell by the door that flies out at the end of Flying Battery Zone that was originally going to be the surfboard for Ice Cap Zone. And it was moved to Sonic 3 and Knuckles once the games were separated. But back to Flying Battery Zone, and I just love everything about this zone. I don't even know why. I love all the gimmicks except for one in Act 2. And the sense of speed and the badniks are fine. They are Blaster and Techno Squeak. The sub-boss is Gapsule, who you start the fight by trying to open him thinking he is an actual capsule. And to fight him, stand on his button and wait for him to start gearing for an attack, and then get off him. He hits himself, it's a boring and easy boss fight. Then there is also Laser Prison, who returns from Winged Fortress. You can't hit him and he's only there to try and hit you, and eventually he just goes away. The boss is the Egg Hanger. Eggman hangs from a platform crawling towards you to shoot fire at you. It will also start swinging, hit him when he does that, and it's once again a boring boss fight. Once again, we are giving the final boss its own segment. After Death Egg Zone's Death Ball fight, you have to fight the giant Death Egg Robo. He will try and crush you with his hands in Phase 1. All you have to do is spin dash and let his fingers crush you. It's very easy. Then in Phase 2, he will destroy the floor and attack you with his bad case of the sniffles. Touch him and he will open his mouth to shoot a laser at you, jump over it, and hit it. It's also very simple, but harder than the first phase. Then you go to Doomsday Zone as long as you have all the Super Emeralds. And once at Doomsday Zone, you have to fight the final weapon. In Phase 1, you have to get to Eggman and make him shoot himself with his own missiles while dodging his lasers, and keep your ring count up. Then in Phase 2, he tries to run away with the Master Emerald. Catch up to him and hit him while dodging anything he throws at you, and keeping your ring count up. The special stages are the same exact thing as Sonic 3, except this time you go through super big rings and end up in Hidden Palace Zone, where you give up the Chaos Emeralds to upgrade them for the Super Emeralds. And Blue Spheres has some new gimmicks, such as the Yellow Spheres, which launch you, and getting all the Super Emeralds will get you Hyper Sonic, an even better version of Super Sonic. I don't really have any fun facts for the music of this game, but my favorite tracks are Flying Battery Zone Act 2, the mini-boss theme, and the Invincibility theme. You can play as Knuckles throughout this entire game again as an after-story, this time following a very intelligent Egg Robo and Mecha Sonic teaming up to kill Knuckles and take the Master Emerald. You go through the same zones with mostly the same bosses, and Knuckles can glide and climb, but he has a lower jump height, so he can't get to the areas Sonic can. But he can break walls Sonic couldn't just by walking through them, leading to him having different, usually harder routes, and some of the bosses also have changes to make them harder, such as the Egg Vortex no longer lowering to accentuate Knuckles' lower jump height. And the final boss is very different. It takes place in Sky Sanctuary, where Egg Robo carries you but is accidentally destroyed by Mecha Sonic, and that starts a boss fight against Mecha Sonic. From Sonic's story, but afterwards, Mecha Sonic, using the power of the Master Emerald to turn into Super Mecha Sonic, he flies around trying to either shoot you or ram into you, or even use his own rings to hit you. Avoid him, and he will eventually lose his super form. Hit him before he charges on the Master Emerald. It's actually pretty difficult for me. And now, it's time to rank Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And this game has some of my favorite zones in the series, some of the best music in the series, my favorite special stages, some fine bosses and some others that aren't as fine. And Knuckles was a great addition, and it's nice that he had his own story. And Hypersonic was also a great addition, so after all that, I give it an S tier!
You know, what can I say?
A near perfect finale to the Genesis era of Sonic, with great levels, great characters, and an even better story and slightly better bosses, I would say.